Okay, so my camera's not working for some reason, so it doesn't matter. So we're going to be making them floor planks, and wooden planks that we looked at in class. We're not going to go super deep into making the texture absolutely perfect. We're going to get over the main kind of points, which is how to obviously deal with tiling textures, how to apply some noise, and how to export them and put them into Unreal, and then how to kind of fix that issue with the normal map, not normal map, sorry, the roughness map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the open. If I go to open sample, I'm going to use the tiling material. So the standard tiling material looks like this. It's a big old kind of noisy blob, but it's not the most attractive thing. But what it actually is doing is there's one piece of geometry that's being tiled around. So in the middle there's one piece and it's getting tiled around, but all the UVs are stacked on top of each other here on the right, so that when we texture something here, it gets tiled in all 9 kind of quadrants. If I go to Windows, View, Display Settings, I'll make that on there just to show you. If I scroll down to the bottom of this, I get this wireframe, mesh wireframe, and you'll see that there is like a repeated shape around. So you get this middle square here, and it's repeated around. So first of all, what I'm going to do is get rid of everything I don't need to start from scratch. Boom. There we go. Also, I will just turn off that wireframe because that will get annoying. Now, what I'm not going to use this for is the density. You notice how the mesh then was really dense? That is allowing us to have a little bit of like height map information. We're not actually going to use that in this. We're not going to, we're not doing anything like undulating sand dunes or mountain ranges. We're just doing floor planks, wooden planks. Okay, so number one, I'm going to actually get past the most hard part about this. I'm going to get past the tile making, how to make these planks, and oh, hello. It's really simple, and I think at the same time, what I'm going to do is also make some floor tiles. So I'm making making wooden planks and floor tiles using the same process. So all at the same time. Okay. So as you can see, I've got my setup the way I like it. So I've got my properties over here. My assets is off on my other monitor, and my layers is nice and big. So let's just run that. Oh, it's already got it on here. So yeah, I've already got my texture bakes, my texture set bakes, bake mesh maps there. So what I'm going to do first of all is add a fill layer, as per everything. Fill layer. Just have it color for now. So I'm just going to Alt click to make it color. I'm just going to deal with color at the time being. Make it black, and to that I'm going to add a black mask. So fill layer, make it black, and only control the color, and adding a black mask. And to this black mask, I'm going to add either a fill or a generator. For this, it doesn't really matter. But inside there, I'm going to add a tile generator. So I'm going to so clear out the search there. I search for tile, and I'm going to scroll down to see this little slide here says tile generator. Click that. There we go. So we're starting to get it working, and you can see here what's happening. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is 10 by 10, but you can see here this is 30 by 30. That's because it's tiling 3 by 3. Okay. So tile generator. So I'm going to make my planks first. So in class I already know that it's going to be 2 by 8. Oops, a daisy. 2 by 8. I have to do it the other way around. So I'll do 8 by 2. So 8 going across, 2 going up. I need to invert it obviously because I need to invert it. So boom, there we go. Pattern, I'm going to change the pattern type to square. Like that. So it is there, it's just really, really thin. And now what I can do is just mess with some of the settings. So if I bring down scale, for instance, I can see that a bit better. But it's a bit hard to get it absolutely perfect because when we're scaling, it's scaling lengthways more than it's scaling widthways because we're dealing with a rectangle, not a square. What I'm also going to do is just change the resolutions both to 110. Let's change Y to 120. Maybe change that one to. Let's give me the best results. Yeah. Okay, so 1024 on the X and then 2048 on the Y, purely just to give us some better resolution inside these planes. So what's going to give me the best results? So that. Okay, there we go. So, I'm happy with that. Just to get the planks laid in. I'm happy with that. It's a pretty even distribution. Normally, obviously, wooden planks will not have as big a section separating each one because they're against each other, they're butted up against each other. But I can fix that later on, or I can even do some stuff to make those look like they're closer together later on. First, all I want to do is, again, sketch in the information. So I'm just making sure I've got everything pretty good. So cool, that's from there. Size, I can change the size, and this is where I can actually probably... There we go. So I'm just changing the size ever so slightly just to give myself a tighter plank. Position, this is where the fun stuff happens, offset. So I want to offset this, but I don't want to offset it horizontally like this because that's not how planks are offset. I want to vertically offset. So it says vertical offset here. And there we go. And then I can do whatever I want with this, you know. This is a tiling texture as well, so as it passes through the bottom, it's just going to start repeating from the top again. And likewise, side to side. So I can do any kind of offset I want. I can even make it random. So I can do whatever I want. Cool. Awesome. So I've already got my wooden planks kind of laid out, and then all the information is going to be underneath this. So what I'm going to do is now copy this off, tile generator, so let's hide this for now. I'm going to make a different set of tiles. So position, count. So I'm going to call this, let's make it a 4x4. I'm going to make the pattern square, everything the same, so they're both going to be 1024 resolution. All the scales are going to be the same. I'm just going to scale it down. Now this is going to be much nicer to deal with because all my squares are going to be exactly the same size. You know, they're all square. So when I do the scale, it's going to be equal across all sides. Rather than when you're dealing with longer, like rectangles, you got your shorter sides are going to scale faster than your longer sides. And then position, I want to... Do I want to offset? I don't want to offset. I don't want to... We can do a bit of offset, I guess. Yeah. Let's do a bit of offset. Actually, no, I want to keep these nice and regular. There we go. So now this is just going to be a bunch of tiles, a bunch of floor tiles. Nice. For both of them, I can also start to define some height information. So if I go back to my planks, and I go back to the actual colour that's controlling it, so not the mask, the colour, so the left-hand side icon here, I'm going to turn on height. I'm going to start to bring that down slightly. Remember, you're going to just touch that a little bit. So that's the 0.02 essentially. Minus 0.02. There you go. And then also roughness. I'm going to crank the roughness quite high. The roughness is because that's going to help me visually separate off planks, because there was kind of like losing all the plank separations in the highlights. As we crank this, we start to see those highlights appear. Same thing for the floor tiles. So go to my color channel, or my material channel. Just buff down the height a little bit. Again, I'm going to use the same number for this as 0.002. And buff my roughness pretty much all the way. Yeah, cool. So that gives me separation. That is effectively acting like grout for now. Awesome. Cool. And just to keep these separated off as well, I know I'm kind of like leapfrogging through a couple of things. All we've looked at there is just adding a color fill channel or a material fill layer using the paint bucket, adding a black mask to that, and then adding a tile generator to it through a fill modifier. So we right click fill on the mask, and all I've done is just change the parameters slightly on both of them, and I've got two different types of tiles. But now I'm going to separate these off because I'm actually going to start doing some stuff. So I'm going to add a folder, call it wooden planks, make another one, call it tiles, and obviously I'm going to drag my tiles, might as well call that tiles, into tiles, and my wooden planks into planks. Cool. So now I can actually just like in Photoshop, I can deal with layers. Okay, so just dealing with the wood for now. I'm going to be using this as well to do some kind of, I think it's cool stuff later on. So now what I'm going to do is add layers underneath this. So this is going to be on top of everything, and I'm going to add all my color information underneath it. So again, first of all, color. We get a general color. So it's always a fill layer. Never forget this. Always adding a fill layer first. We get a general kind of color. That's nice and flat. We don't need to control the roughness on this, but we can do if we want to. So I'm just going to up the roughness touch. Actually, no, I'm not going to touch the roughness on this at all. This is just going to be color. And this is base. The next one, again, another fill layer. Just using color for now. And I'm going to get a darker color. And this will become like the beginning of my wood grain information. Right click, add a black mask as per usual. Add a fill, so right click the mask, add fill. And then my, well, if I've got my assets folder open here, I can just use that. So I'm going to search for direction. Untick any filters, so I'm not filtering materials. There we go. And I want to use one of these directions. So let's go for, that's quite a nice one. So I'm just going to drag this into that grayscale. And I can see that that's actually been applied to the surface, but it's going in the wrong direction. It needs to be going obviously lengthways. That's where we use the rotation in the properties up here, and we'll just rotate 90 degrees. Boom. There we go. And then to this, I'm going to add another fill, and then add another direction from that little direction menu, and I'm going to go for something a bit more like this one. And then we'll rotate that 90 degrees. There we go. So obviously, as we've looked at in class, everything has a layer blend kind of quality to it. Just like in Photoshop where you've got normal, multiply, overlay, linear dodge, all that kind of stuff. So currently this new directional is sitting over top of the other one, which is not great. So what I'm going to do is for this one, this top one, I'm going to set it to linear dodge add. So it actually shows both of them through at the same time. And then I can, you know, do I want to invert it on the left hand side in properties? I can invert it to see if I get a better result. I can play with the opacity of that. Now in between these two, what I'm also going to do is, well, first of all, I'm actually going to duplicate this. So I'm duplicating that first initial layer, making it linear dodge add again. So essentially all I'm doing there is I'm just adding more of that darker value on top of it. Why I'm doing that though is this very bottom one here, I'm actually going to add a filter on top of it. So I'll add a filter, I'll just drag it so it's just on top of this. So it affects anything that's below it but not above it. And what I'm going to do in this is add a level. Actually, no, I don't want a filter, sorry. I want a levels. A levels, there you go. So drag that on top of there. So this levels is like your HSL, your threshold, your whatever. So what I want to do is push the dark value so I get a much more like bittier form like that. I want that kind of information. And then I can even add a filter. So I might add a filter now. Again, put it on top of the levels. And this, I might add a warp of some variety. There we go. And I'm going to look at what the result of that is happening. So as I increase that warp, you see it's just kind of getting very grainy. So my intensity divider, I can go through these and see what they want. So that one's not really doing much for me, so I'll go down to 100. I'm just checking these. There you go. So that's, yeah, so what I'm doing there is just adding a little bit of that noise to it. So yeah, the warp's a good one for me. Yeah, just adding a bit of that noise to it. And then again, I can start to just blend in and out that information. I'm going to add a new layer. Just use it color. And this time I'm going to go for a lighter color. So I'm going to go for something like that. again, adding a black mask. This time I'm going to add some sort of like directional grunge. I'm going to find a grunge map with some sort of direction to it. So again, add a fill. And I'm going to look for grunge. So grunge. I'm looking for something that's got a bit of direction to it. Now I do know there's some really nice brushed grunge, which has got a kind of woody feel to it. So this one, there's a few of them. That's quite a nice one. I can even move that. So how does that look when it's done? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to put it underneath the darker ones like that. That's quite nice. And then I can, if I click on that fill, I've got some controls over stuff. So I've got some, you know, balance, contrast, tiling. I don't really want to touch the tiling though. And again, just play with the layer blends. Maybe like overlay. Okay, like that. That's fine, I think. Okay, there we go. Again, I'm just adjusting that color now that I see it on the surface. I can adjust the color so it's making a bit more sense. That gives me a bit of a scuffed feel. So what I'm going to do is add another fill. I'm going to, again, where's my assets? Did I close my assets folder? Assets, there we go. Grunge. And I'm going to use that grunge brushed. Oh, did I add a filter? Oops, I added a filter. I wanted a fill, not a filter. There we go. So again, this is a linear dodge add. So now you can see it's kind of looking a little bit more realistic. There's noise. The last one I'm going to do is actually copying this layer altogether. But I'm going to delete all the modifiers I've put in it, because I just want the color. All I'm doing is just duplicating it for the color. And this time what I'm going to do is add a fill. And there is actually a wood. There is actually wood elements inside here. So wood. And we've got some kind of wood information here that I can use. The problem is you've got to see how it actually tiles and how it actually works. Now that's actually done quite nicely, that. If I tile it twice, yeah. So now I'm going to tile it once. I think that's enough. Yeah. So again, it's just adding a little bit of information. I'm just going to offset it. Oh, and I'm just moving it around. Yeah. Cool. So far we've made, if we go from scratch, so we've added our first planks. Obviously we did our planks, and then we did our first layer of information, which was some sort of directional blur or directional noise. That is quite cool, like that. Actually, looks like a distressed wood. Some more grunge, some more directional grunge. We added levels to the very bottom one, so it went from basically this to this, far more like bitty information. Then we added a bit of warp just to kind of offset a little bit, upset it, so just makes it a bit noisier. Stack that on top, we get that. Then we did the, we did the base. Obviously we did the base first, and then we did the lighter color, and the lighter color is just, I mean, that looks quite good like that. That's just adding our more lighter directional wood grain. Some of that, remember, is just a grunge map, and then there is actually an actual wood alpha being used to get some of that. So altogether that gives us that, and that's quite nice. Obviously playing with a bit of layer blends, making sure that we turn our fill layers to linear dodge add, so we can see through our different modifiers. And then the only thing we've done differently is on the height and the roughness on the actual planks. We've just brought the roughness up, so that it's actually becoming rough in between the planks, and then we've added height, or we've brought the height down to get a bit of height, because that's going to come through in our height map at the end. Now what I'm going to do is start to go through these and decide probably not going to be using any height information, but definitely rough information. So if I turn roughness on now, and I start to increase this, can I get a nice balance of roughness? I don't want to make it too rough. That's too much. But I want to get a balance of roughness per layer. Now this is one thing we do have to be aware of actually. That is a little bit confusing at first. I'm dealing with roughness channels here, and you can see when I turn on the roughness, it is overlapping the roughness below it. That's because we need to go up to the layers here and actually say that we want to work with the roughness. There we go. So if I go back to, so I'm dealing with this layer here, this fill layer 1. You can see here when we're in base color, it's set to normal. But if we change to roughness, I change that to linear dodge add. So it's actually, we're controlling the different like image types, the different texture types. So now what I can do is again increase that roughness a little bit, balance it, go to the next one. Again, linear dodge add, just to allow that roughness through, and then control some. So what I'm doing is just trying to get a nice roughness kind of balance of the entire thing. But we're not done with the roughness yet, because that's looking okay, but it's looking a little bit shiny overall. So what I'm going to do is literally make a layer that has nothing but roughness on it. I'm going to add a fill layer to this, so add a mask, add a fill, and here I'm going to add just some overall, you know, grungy, cloudy information that's going to help you break up some of this roughness. So remember that the lighter the color, the rougher it is, the darker the color, the shinier it is, because you're adding roughness. So I'm going to find something kind of in the middle ground, not too directional. Try this grunge fingerprints dot. Again, make that linear dodge add. Yeah, I like that. That's enough for me. So now what I can do is, what about going through and seeing what happens if I start adding some height? Now remember, we have got to be really careful about this. Height is a very aggressive map. So I'm not going to go above 0.02 on anything. And even then, that looks disgusting. Because if we cycle through our maps now, we'll find this one, and all the roughness map, all the the height map is creating our normal map, and it looks very grainy. So what it comes through is very grainy information inside here. But again, what I'm going to do is go to height. Oh, this is all linear dodge add anyway, so cool. Cool. So it's something to begin with. You know, we're not going into the super minutiae of it yet, but you know, cool. That's our wooden planks kind of done. Very easy. The last thing I guess what I'm going to do is actually go back to my plank section, and I'm going to add a filter above my tile generator and add a bevel to this. So bevel. I'm actually going to use this to get these a little bit darker. There we go. Nice. Cool. So I'm actually going to knock the roughness up a little bit more. Add another. It's still a little bit too shiny, so I'm going to add one more layer of fill. Again, linear dodge, add that fill so I can see through it. And again, I've closed my assets window. There we go. I'm going to get. Let's go for clouds. See what clouds are good to. Clouds are good to add into a texture, as they're often quite soft, obviously because of clouds. So, push. There we go. Ooh, that's better. Take that. Oh, perfect. I'm happy with that. And then we obviously export this. So I'm going to go File, Export Textures. Make sure I've got it send into my correct folder. I'm going to put it in this folder for now. I might as well make a little subfolder. Materials. And I'm going to put this inside flooring. There we go. So I'm going to select that folder. I'm going to make my file type a TIFF, because that's a nice file type to have in this. My document template is, I'm just going to leave it as document template because that should give me the right stuff. And then my sizes, well, this is my 4-meter flooring, so it's going to be a 2K texture. And then export. There we go, done. So what it's going to give me is a base color, height map, roughness, metallic, normal, the normal DirectX, a mixed AO, which is quite nice to use. Cool. So if I go back into Unreal now, I can. Oh, actually no. Before I go back into Unreal, I need to make sure my materials are named correctly. So here are my materials. Here are my textures. Before I send them in, I might as well name them here. So everything needs to have a name convention. So T, because it's a texture. This is wooden floor. C for color. So I know this is a texture, it's a wooden floor, and it's the color map. This is the height map, so this is going to be T underscore wooden floor H, because it's the height map. There's no metallic, so I'm just going to get rid of that completely. See the difference between these two. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this, because this null map's not actually got anything on. This is my roughness, so T underscore wooden floor roughness. This is my normal, so it's NM, and this is my AO, so this is T wooden floor AO. Now, is there actually anything in this inclusion map? No, okay, so there's actually nothing in this, so we actually can get rid of this as well. So that's the only 3 things we're going to take in. The height map we might use later on. But for now, I'm just going to use these 3. Obviously, there's no metallic map, so I don't need to worry about that. Cool. So let's go. Have we got a materials folder? Okay, we've got a materials folder. Let's just delete these because they're not being used. Yep, delete them. And again, I'm going to delete these because I don't need them for this demo. Right, okay, so literally from this folder here, I'm going to drag them in. Oh, all 4 of them. There we go. So I could leave all my textures for any kind of flooring in here. Or you could have a different folder per different type of floor tile. There is a point where you do get over-organized, but I'm going to leave them like that for now. And in my materials, obviously... Oh, I don't want that. Don't want a Q sound. In here, in my materials root folder, I'm just going to right-click, add material. This is M, because it's material. Wooden floor. I'll bring it into here. And obviously it opens up my material, which we've looked at before, but remember that this is your material result. Everything gets plugged into this. And if you want to change the material, how the material acts, it's all inside here. So I go to textures, I grab these guys, drag them in, and now we just have to hook them up. But we'll see, obviously, an issue with the mesh in a sec. So there you go. So color, roughness, normal, height. My color, obviously, RGB into base color because it's color. My roughness goes into my roughness. There we go. That's the problem starting already. And then my normal goes into normal. Cool. So the problem being, and I'll apply this to, did I just delete a bit of, I think I deleted a bit of flooring. There you go. So the problem being that when I apply this to everything, wooden floor, what you'll see is it's very shiny, super shiny. This is like glossy floor. It's kind of messed up the roughness map, which is not great because I had a nice looking roughness map. Now it's an easy fix, but it's just not a. You have to kind of Google this fix. It's not something that Unreal tells you overtly what to do. What's actually happening is Unreal is changing how this roughness map is being read. It's putting something called sRGB on it, and what that does is it kind of color corrects it to the screen. But the fact that we've actually made that roughness map ourselves and we know the values means that it shouldn't it shouldn't change that value. We should control that value ourselves. So there's two things we need to do. Number one, we need to change this texture sample to be a different color sample or a different sample type. Don't worry about what that means too much. All we've got to do is, with this selected, on the left hand side here it says you got material, expression, texture, base. Yeah. It says sample type, sampler type. If you just drop this down and go to linear color, that's what we want. You will get an error message, but we're going to fix that in a second. So we'll change the way that the texture is being read. Obviously, it doesn't want to look like a color. It's looking like a linear color. Basically a basic color. Now what I'm going to do is actually double click on this texture here to open up the texture so we can actually see the texture. And what we're going to do in here is turn off sRGB right here. Turn that off. We save. And now there's no more error message because it's actually fixed. And now you can see that the material is changed. So literally I'll drag this over here and I will, you can't see it, but what I'm going to do is toggle sRGB on. Change this to color. Super shiny. Very, very shiny surface. Change this to linear color. Turn off sRGB. Perfect. Save that. Boom. A bit annoying, but it's just one thing we have to do. So now that gives us our really nice textures on the floor. Nice. So then I can literally jump back in here and let's do. So that's the wooden floor tiles, wooden floor planks. You call them floor tiles, wooden floor planks. Now I can tell you the same kind of thinking, but just for tiles, and I can think about what kind of tiles am I making. Am I making marble tiles? I'm making da-da-da tiles. There is one thing that's a little bit different doing this approach with what I'm thinking of doing. And it's the randomization of stuff. It's particularly height map and noise map stuff. Painter has this really annoying habit of showing information that we don't want, but I'll show you that when we come to it. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to make 2 new colors. Actually, I only need one, don't I? Boom. So this one, this is black, obviously. Actually, no, I do need to duplicate this as well. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up with my process. So this one at the top, this is going to be my grout. I'm going to call it grout. And this one here, and this one's going to be white. And this is going to be black. Because what I'm going to do is have this tile generator control the grouting in between. This tile generator is going to be controlling the actual tile itself underneath, and this tile, well, there's nothing going to be on there, so you'll see what I mean. So tile generator's on there, that's great. The second, the black one, what I'm going to do is click inverse, like that. And then in it, I'm going to go down to the bottom, color, and I'm going to turn on where it says checker mask. There we go. So maybe you can see what I'm about to do. So I'm making some very basic kind of floor tiles. So let me make this color a grouty kind of color. But I want to turn off the height and the roughness off this black tile, because all I want to do is control the black tiles with this one. So now you got that grouting in between, which I could probably make a bit darker, to be honest. Like that. Cool. Awesome. So when it comes to color stuff, there is absolutely no problem with doing what I'm about to do. Pardon me. However, what I am going to do is put everything to do with the black mask, or the black tiles, in a subfolder. So I'm going to make a folder in here and call it black tiles. Put that in. And even to this, I'm actually going to basically do this mask setup with the tile generator in this. So I'm going to copy, copy the mask. Copy mask. Copy mask, there you go. So I copy mask, and then I should be able to paste mask on here. Paste into mask. There we go. So I've copied the mask from here by going to right click down to copy mask, and then on this folder I've copied in copy into mask. So I've now got that mask there. That means I can do anything in here. So I can add a mask. So not add a new layer, put it in, and make it red. You can see it's only showing up in this area. Why that's really cool is that's down there. That's my black mask, but what I can do on top of that, and you know what, I don't really need this mask. I can just get rid of this mask altogether, because obviously the folder itself is controlling the mask. But there might be reasons why I might want to keep this tile generator mask on, so I'll leave it on. What I'm going to do is add a black mask to this, add a fill to this, and what I'm looking for is something like marble, or cracks, or something. Something like that, yeah. Drag that in there. There we go. Something like that. Which looks kind of cool like that, isn't it? And then I'm going to add levels on it, and then I'm going to start messing with those levels too. Because I don't want a lot of it. What I want it to look like is kind of like cracks. Add a bit of roughness, because that roughness is now going to come through. Like that, bit of roughness. And I can even nudge in a tiny bit of height as well. And I'm going to change the colour to a lighter grey, so it's more like this colour. Now why I'm doing this is because it's down to the height map. You see how it's also coming through here? I don't want that. It comes across in... Oh, sorry, no. Sorry. If I didn't have this inside a folder, the height information would also show up underneath my white information, which I don't want, because I want this to be obviously this information for my cracks on the black tiles, this information, because obviously the cracks are passing through all the tiles and it doesn't separate them. But if you put this information inside a folder, it stops it. And then I can do the same thing for the white. So the white is being blocked out by this tile folder anyway, so I can do anything above this white. So let's do some roughness, some color. Let's make this slightly darker. Add a mask as per usual. Add a fill as per usual. And I'm just gonna look for something grunge. Yeah, grunge. Actually, no, I'm gonna go for noise. I just want like cloudy kind of noise. Like that. There we go. It's applying to everything. So I guess even with this, I will need to put this into a folder. So the annoying things about Painter that I wish they would kind of fix is how information blends from one to the other, and just post saying like, "Oh, you just change a layer blend to this." It doesn't. It never works out. Oh, there we go. I want to copy the mask. I'm going to paint the mask into this one, but I'm going to invert the color. There we go. So then that's only showing up on the white bits. Because then inside here I can do my own roughness map. So if I literally copy that roughness map, drag it into the top of the folder there, and then I can just do a bit of offsetting. I'll just do a different map actually. Yeah, like that. I'll do a different kind of noise. There you go. So a little bit more involved, but essentially every color, if I'm doing this sort of checkerboard here, every color is going to have its own folder, so that all the information is only contained in there, and we're using the folder to mask off the areas. You can absolutely use masks on the inside. As you can see, I can do whatever I want, but it's only using the mask on the folder to control exactly where it's showing on the grid. And then, you know, that's my basic kind of floor tiles for now. So what I'll do is, again, export that. It's going to flooring, but it's not. This is going to, well, I guess it is going to flooring, so I can change that. Tiff. Yep. There we go. Go to that, and then we've obviously got new images. Have we got any metallic? No. Have we got any AO? Probably not. That one can go away because it's going to be this one, the DirectX normal, which is going to have, you can't see it that well, but that's got my information on there. And then I name these. So this is T kitchen tiles underscore. I'm actually going to do a tricky thing where I'm going to copy paste this, copy that. So this is my color. This is my height, so copy H. This is my normal, so copy NM. This is my roughness, so copy there you go. And then that's all ready to go into Unreal. So now I go to materials, textures. I'll just drag those tiles into here. And then new material underscore kitchen tiles. Create that. Now ahead of time, what I can do is grab that roughness. So double click this roughness, change the sRGB to be turned off. You can see the difference. That's the change that Unreal makes. So if you turn that off, that's the actual map that we made. So you can see the difference. There we go. And then I can open up my material, go to my textures, grab these, bring them in, lay them out. So that's my roughness, color, normal, height, and just plug them in. Now, because I've already changed my my image type of that roughness map, it does understand to be a linear color straight away. So if you plug it in without turning off the sRGB, it'll think it's a color map, not a linear color map. Here we go. So now I can do just to test that is just to apply that to the whole environment. Kitchen. There we go. And then if I'm in play mode, I can just see how that feels. And what is very cool is I think that's a little bit too big. So all I need to do is come into anywhere where I'm using that tile generator. And I'm just going to say like, okay, 6x6 this time. So anywhere that tile generator lives, I'm going to make it a 6x6, not a 5x5, a 6x6. Tile generator, there you go. I mean, that looks pretty cool. It is actually, that's quite cool. So hey, a little bit of experiment does something cool. There we go. So all I'm doing is changing the tile division. All the information with roughness and the height map and all that kind of stuff, it still persists. So I'm just changing the tile generator information. But as you saw there, I actually came up with accidentally happened upon some cool little tiling information. Oh, my grout as well. My grout needs changing. So grout. Sucks. There we go. And then all I have to do is export that. Same place. Export. Go to that folder. Get rid of the ones I don't want. And I'm just going to rename. Get rid of the ones I don't want. And rename them again. So this is C for color. This is height. This is NM. And this is roughness. So that way, I should be able to trick Unreal into thinking that those are actually the same textures. So re-import them. There we go. Any minute you're going to wake up. Any minute you're going to wake up. Oh, it's because I'm playing. There we go. So then just a quick little change. I'm like, okay, that looks a bit better. That tile distribution now looks a little bit more realistic. And it actually doesn't look that bad, you know. It reacts well to the light. That's because our roughness map is, our roughness channel is working correctly. So yeah, that's the fun we can have with tiles. Well, I'm not going to delete those, but right, so I'm going to change that to be back to wood. Here we go. Nice. I'm going to duplicate this. This is my floor B. For A2. There we go. And this one I'm going to apply the tiling to. There we go. Because this is, I've literally just duplicated off the same mesh then inside the content browser. So then what I can do is come in here and, you know, I'm not really going to probably be using these, so I can move them out of the way for now. And then I can bring in that new floor. Thank you very much. So now I've got my two little floors. And again, I can look at this and say, okay, are my planks too big? Do I need to make them, I think I might need to make them thinner. Which again, will just be a really simple coming in here. And all I'm going to do is change the distribution of the tiles in the generator across one axis. Let's say 10 instead. That's all I'm going to do. Is literally all I'm going to do. Export these. Again, we get these. So I'm going to just copy that. Or at least copy everything before what channel it is. And then delete all that I don't need. Yeah, get rid of value. Obviously I don't need the metallic. I don't need the AO. I don't need that normal map. I need the DirectX one. And now I can just go boom. Copy paste C. This is copy paste H. This is copy paste NM because it's normal. And this is copy paste roughness. Back into Unreal. Back into those materials. Textures. Let's just re-import everything. And you'll see this immediately update. Oh, okay. So you don't want to. Okay. That's fine. Okay, re-import you. Import you. Okay, so I've made a bit of a boo-boo there. For some reason, it's. There we go. That should be alright now. It got a bit confused with what I was doing. I think I was trying to tell it to do too many things at once. And now they're a bit thinner, and I can look at them in play mode and go, okay, how does that look? That feels a bit better. Am I missing information? Is there too much wood information? Is the wood information too big? Do we need to tile it down by a hole? So, you know, creating the floor tiles and then literal kitchen tiles really easy. When it comes to doing stuff like painted walls and anything like that, it's even easier. So cool. I will see you in the next one.